Hi everyone, this is a brief video to give some reinforcement to the subject concerning melody-harmony relationships and specifically approach tones and approach tone patterns. Um, it's not meant to be a substitute for doing your own reading or study or attending class, but it's an augmentation of that. Okay, so we're talking about approach notes. First of all, definition of an approach note is a note which resolves by step uh, into a target note. And the target note must be available in the harmony. In other words, it must be a chord tone or an available tension. Notes not available in the harmony must be approach notes. In other words, if they're not available, then they must be functioning as some sort of approach note. But tensions and chord tones which are available in the harmony can also be approach notes, depending on where they're placed. Often when a motive repeats, the pattern of approach notes repeats. So sequence like that, whatever was an approach note or a target note in the previous phrase will continue to be so in the next phrase, generally speaking. Approach notes are most often on weak stresses, and stressed approach notes are uncommon. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And here's the various types of approach notes: passing tones, unprepared approach, upper and lower neighbor, double chromatic, and indirect resolutions. So we're going to go over that in a little bit more detail now. So the first thing to be aware is that melody-harmony relationships depend a lot on where are the notes placed in the metrical structure, or what we call the metrical level. In 4/4, the metrical level is quarter notes, and the concept that we have to really be clear on is that in a group of 4, 1 and 3 are heard as strong or as definitive, and 2 and 4 are heard as transitional in nature. That means that we tend to hear whatever happens on 1 and 3 of a group of 4 as defining the essential character of the harmony, and whatever's on 2 and 4 is more maybe supporting the harmony, but it's not so much of a definition. It's more of a feeling of transition. And that's those transition points that, the 1 and 3 are the target points. That's where your target notes go, and the 2 and 4 is where your approach notes go. So in this passage, we have a little melody that goes like this. And because of the way the notes are organized at the metrical level, everything heard on 1 and 3 are considered target notes. And so we analyze them against the chord of the moment. That's the 5th of that chord. That's the 9th on that chord. And you'll notice that all of the notes, all the target notes, are available in the harmony. If you take a minute to analyze them, you'll see that every note which is on 1 and 3 is an available note. It means basically it sounds good against the harmony, it doesn't clash with the harmony, it supports the harmony. Okay, and so there's a 5th, there's a 9, there's an 11, that's a 13, that's a flat 3, that's a flat 9 available on a dominant chord. 11, 13, and 3. Okay. Now the notes on the 2 and 4 are sounding as approach notes, or analyzed as approach notes, and then we just have to get into what are the various types of approach notes. These are passing tones, and passing tones are just defined as notes which move by step between 2 target notes. Okay, so every single one of these approach notes in this particular example are passing tones. This is the metrical level. The melody is at the metrical level here. It's at the level of quarter notes in 4/4. You can also have a melody at the supermetrical level. That means at the level of where it's twice as long, or lasts twice as long as the metrical level. So in this case, it would be half notes. It would sound like this. So now you'll notice it's the same melody, but this is really important because the actual function of the notes has changed. Not because the notes are different, but because their placement in the metrical structure has changed. So now the group of 4 is longer. Now the group of 4 encompasses 2 measures instead of 1 measure. So this is a target. This is now a passing tone. This is a target. This is now a passing tone. So basically what has happened is this melody has been extended, been lengthened, and the analysis has to adapt to that, because melody harmony relationships definitely depend on what are the duration of the notes in relation to the meter. That's the key point here. All right, then you can also have, and here's the breakdown of what we just did. Then you can have something at the so-called submetrical level. You can have movement where the notes are moving by twice as fast as the basic pulse or basic metrical level. In this case, it would be eighth notes. And now we have a much more busy melody, of course. So we have this. Now, if you actually analyze what's happening here, the melody elements from our original melody are pretty similar to what they were here. But we've added a bunch of eighth notes, like sort of embellishing those essential notes. And now our group of 4 is only 2 beats long. So our targets are on all the downbeats, and our approach notes are on all the upbeats. Again, then it's just a matter, once you've found your approach notes, then it's just a matter of labeling them. What kind of approach note? This happens to be something called an upper neighbor. That's a passing tone. That's a passing tone. That's a passing tone. Lower neighbor, passing tone. Lower neighbor, passing tone. Okay, here's a combo. This is a combination of things, because melodies don't always go in the same note value all the way through, obviously. That would be kind of boring. So we have a metrical level for a while, then we go to submetrical level, then we go to supermetrical level, and so we get this. So because we're at the metrical level, this is an approach note here. But once we get to our target, our submetrical level, everything speeds up, and so now the targets are every other beat, on every downbeat, and now the approach notes are here. And then we slow down here at the supermetrical level, and we get one target and one approach note in the measure. Here's the different kinds of approach notes. Passing tone, again, is a note which moves by step between 2 other notes, basically filling in the gap of a third. E to G is a third, filling it in with that passing tone. Neighbor tone is when you go to an upper or a lower note in relation to a target, and then you return to that very same target. Unprepared is when the approach tone is preceded by a rest or a leap. Okay, so in this case, it's preceded by a rest. So therefore it's called unprepared, because you haven't led up into it. It just happens all of a sudden. So it'd be like 1 and 2. This is the unprepared approach on the way in, because it's separated by a leap. It's preceded by a rest. And this is an unprepared approach on the way into this note, because it's preceded by a leap. Okay, indirect resolution is when you surround a note by step, either chromatically or scale-wise, and then you resolve to your eventual target. But together they give us a 2-note group of 2 neighbor tones, upper and lower, lower and upper. Double chromatic passing tones are pretty self-explanatory, 2 notes chromatically leading into a target. Because target notes generally coincide with strong rhythmic stresses and the changes of harmony, there are always chord tones or available tensions. So that's just another way of saying what I said at the beginning, which is target notes must always be available in the harmony. I'd like to remind you that this is from the Harmony 2 text, so you should own that, and you can read in more detail there. It's a really great book. It's really well organized. And here are the categories of approach tones that you should understand. and you should understand the elements about metrical structure and how groups of 4 are our way of deciding how notes are functioning against the harmony. So groups of 4 divided into strong, weak, strong, weak. Okay, hope that helps.